Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. We are into NFL Week 15. We got the Battle of Pennsylvania here. Steelers on the road in Philadelphia. Let's do it. All right, so like I said, Steelers are on the road in Philly for this one. The Eagles are laying pretty much 5 across the board. I do see a 5.5 out there, but for the most part, it's 5 across the board. Total sitting down at 42.5. Let's get into the matchup, and we'll start with some trends, and you're not going to like them if you're a Steelers fan. Pittsburgh has not had the most success against Philadelphia. They're 3-5 straight up in their last 8, just 2-6 against the spread. But specifically on the road in Philly, things have not gone well for the Steelers. They're 0-6 straight up in their last 6, 0-6 against the spread. They have not won a game in Philadelphia since before 1979. So since 1979, we're talking about 6 games, 6 losses against the number. Now, is this data relevant? Probably not. But it's a nice way to start the video. Also, in the last 6 matchups since 2004, 4-2 to the under. So Eagles and under has been the way to bet this series, but we're not interested in the pass. We're talking about this matchup here, and we'll start with the Steelers offense against the Eagles defense here. And obviously, on paper, Philadelphia has the huge edge. They're actually first in the NFL in yards per play allowed, 3rd in success rate, 1st in yards per pass attempt allowed, 3rd in success rate per drop back against a Steelers offense that hasn't been all that good. Now, we know it has been better as of late. I mean, since Russell Wilson took over as quarterback, obviously the offense has looked a lot better. On the season, though, 19th in yards per play, 21st in success rate. Now, something to take note of when we're talking about the Steelers offense, obviously Russell Wilson took over at quarterback, and it's Russell Wilson and George Pickens, and that's what everyone's talking about. But this is still an offense that wants to run the ball. They're 3rd in pace, but 2nd in run frequency on the year. Yeah, a lot of that came from when Justin Fields was at quarterback, but even still, even with Russell Wilson at quarterback, this is still an offense that wants to run the ball. So why don't we take a look at that matchup? Will the Steelers be able to run the ball in this game? As far as the battle in the trenches goes, it's actually not that big of a mismatch here. Steelers offensive line, it's been injured, but they're 17th in adjusted line yards, 12th in run blocking grade, 22nd in yards before contact. Defensive front, 13th, and 12th. So actually not that much of a mismatch there. It definitely worries me a bit that the last 3 teams that went on the road to Philly were not able to run the ball at all, though. The Eagles defense in their last 3 games at home, they're allowing just 91 rushing yards per game, 3.5 yards per carry, success rate per rush under 30%. So their last 3 home games, they were playing lights out defense against the run. Now, you can point at the opponents. Jacksonville, they can't really run the ball. Washington, even their rushing attack is trending in the wrong direction. And Carolina, obviously the Panthers don't have any sort of high-powered offense, even though they've been better as of late. Do we even think this Steelers run game is any good? I mean, look at their last 5 games. Just 3.8 yards per carry, success rate per rush at 34.3%. They're averaging over 124 rushing yards per game, but that's because they hand it off a lot. The efficiency numbers are pretty bad. So on the road in Philly against an Eagles defense that's not really getting run on, really don't like the matchup there for the Steelers. Now, if you are betting Pittsburgh, you can point here. The weakness of this Eagles run defense has definitely been zone blocking schemes. 23rd in yards per carry, 31st in success rate per rush against zone runs. The reason that's significant is that's what Arthur Smith does. The Steelers are 3rd in zone run frequency. So I guess that's something. If you're looking to bet the Steelers, yeah, they haven't been able to run the ball very efficiently as of late, and the Eagles defense has been great against the run, especially at home. But they're weak against zone runs, and that's what the Steelers do. So there's something if you're looking to bet Pittsburgh. If you're asking for my personal opinion on that, I'd say I don't trust the Steelers to be able to run the ball in this one. Maybe a little bit, but the Steelers' run game really hasn't been very efficient at all. So I think they'll continue to struggle to run the ball, which means we got to take a close look at the matchup for Russell Wilson. But where we need to start is right here. George Pickens listed as questionable. They're still missing those 2 pieces on the offensive line. That's not new. But George Pickens listed as questionable, but from what I'm reading and from what Prop Beaver said, doesn't sound like he's going to play. Prop Beaver is on record saying, and I quote, "I don't care if they're listing Pickens as questionable, I'm ruling him out. Dr. Beaver rules Pickens out. I'll bet my bottom dollar on that." And yes, he really did say that. So from what we're reading, it sounds like George Pickens is not going to play in this game. So do we like the matchup for Russell Wilson with probably no Pickens? Well, I'm a little worried about the pass rush. The Eagles' pass rush, as we know, it got off to the slow start, right? In weeks 1 through 7, 15th in pressure rate, 21st in time to pressure. Since week 8, though, this has definitely been a top 10 pass rush. 7th in pressure rate, 9th in time to pressure. And that could definitely be a problem for the Steelers. Like I said earlier, that offensive line is not 100%, and they've definitely struggled in pass protection. They're actually 29th in pressure rate allowed, 24th in pass blocking grade, 22nd in adjusted sack rate. So that's a real nice mismatch in favor of Philadelphia here. Now, the good news, if you're a Steeler fan or if you're betting the Steelers, Russell Wilson's been great handling pressure so far this season. He's actually 4th in the NFL in yards per pass attempt when pressured, 6th in passer rating when pressured, 13th in turnover-worthy play rate, 18th in pressure to sack rate. So it's not all great, but as a whole, Russell Wilson has definitely been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL handling pressure, which is huge here because he's going to see something. So I don't like that matchup at all for the Steelers. Russell Wilson's going to be under a lot of pressure in this game. I also don't like this at all. Passing depth. Russell Wilson, what's been a huge part of his success so far this season? Throwing the deep pass, throwing the ball downfield. He's great at it. He does it all the time. 15% of his pass attempts this season are considered deep passes. That's an A+, meaning towards the top of the NFL, and he's extremely efficient throwing that pass. A+ DVOA, A+ passer rating. Why is that a problem? That's the strength of the Eagles defense. They don't let you go over the top on them. First in DVOA against the deep pass. Don't like that at all. Russell Wilson's numbers throwing the short pass and the intermediate pass, definitely not as nice. So yeah, I don't like that matchup at all for Russell Wilson. Also, the Eagles don't blitz a lot. They're 28th in blitz rate, but they're still 4th in adjusted sack rate, which is terrible for Russell Wilson. First of all, he's been better against the blitz. You can see here, yards per attempt, PFF passer grade, big time throw rate, all better when blitzed. And when not blitzed, he actually takes sacks at a high rate. So when you don't send extra rushers at Russell Wilson, that's actually when you record sacks against them. And that's exactly what the Eagles do. They don't send extra rushers, and they're still 4th in adjusted sack rate. So again, I keep saying this, do not like this matchup for Russell Wilson. And another thing we have to point out about Russell Wilson, look at the Eagles' defensive numbers against the pass. They're 1st in yards per pass attempt, 3rd in success rate per dropback, 8th in EPA against the pass, 5th in pass defense DVOA. Why am I bringing up this graphic? Look at the opponents Russell Wilson has seen. This is the Steelers' opponents' pass defense DVOA ratings since Russell Wilson took over at quarterback. 23rd, 28th, 26th, 16th, 25th, 30th, 25th. He's seen a lot of really bad pass defenses. The Eagles are top 5, so this is going to be an extreme step up in competition here as far as Russell Wilson throwing the ball against the secondary. So allow me to repeat myself for the 3rd or 4th time already in this video. I really don't like this matchup for Russell Wilson. Now, I do have something here. If you're trying to bet Pittsburgh, it's pretty thin, but the Eagles do run a lot of cover 6, 17.5% of the time. Actually, that's the most in the NFL. Cover 6 is not that common of a coverage used in the NFL. Eagles run it almost 18% of the time. Reason I'm bringing this up is Russell Wilson's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the best quarterback in the NFL against cover 6. 2nd in completion percentage, 2nd in pass rating, tied for 1st in big time throw rate. Here's the thing, though. Look at his overall season numbers against cover 6. We're talking about 11 pass attempts here. Now, he's 10 of 11, 91 yards, a touchdown, a 131 passer rating. So he's been great against cover 6, but we're talking about 11 pass attempts here. Extremely small sample that probably shouldn't be included in this video at all. I was just trying to give you something if you're trying to bet the Steelers here. As a whole, I gotta say, I don't like this matchup at all for the Steelers offense. Maybe they can run the ball a little bit. They're certainly going to try, but the Eagles have really locked down the run in their last few home games especially. Don't like the matchup for Russell Wilson. I think this is going to be his first real test. I know Cleveland's got a pass rush, but as a whole, I mean, that's a bottom 7, bottom 8 pass defense. So, I mean, Russell Wilson really hasn't been tested in terms of a good pass defense. He's definitely going to be tested in this one. I think the Steelers offense is going to struggle, especially without Pickens against a defense that doesn't allow deep passes. It's going to be a rough one. I don't like the matchup at all for Pittsburgh's offense. Now let's flip it over to the other side of the ball, and we're going to start right here. Obviously, when you're talking about the Eagles offense, you need to talk about Saquon Barkley in the rushing attack. That's what this Eagles offense is. That's what they do a lot of. That's what they're trying to do. In their last 4 games, they've been very good at it. 6.2 yards per carry, over 224 rushing yards per game, 46.8% success rate per rush. Yes, Carolina's in there, but Washington, they're not the great run defense, but Baltimore, Rams have been playing the run pretty well, so it's not like they've played a cupcake schedule either. This Eagles run game is some serious shit. Now, you might be thinking, well, Kyle, the Steelers defense, I trust the Steelers defense, and I get it. I trust them too. Here's the problem, starting to fall off a bit against the run. In weeks 1 through 7, the first 7 games of the Steelers for the season, it was looking like they were going to be a top 5 run defense this year. 3.6 yards per carry allowed, just 81 rushing yards per game allowed, success rate per rush under 35%, elite numbers against the run in their first 7 games. Look at their last 6 games. 104 rushing yards allowed per game, 4.7 yards per carry, success rate close to 46%. And look at the opponents. Okay, Baltimore's in there, and Washington, that's a good rushing attack too. The Giants, Cleveland twice, and Cincinnati, it's not like they've seen all these dynamic, explosive rushing attacks. This Steelers run defense is trending in the wrong direction, and they're on the road in Philly, which might be the toughest spot for a run defense to go and stop the run. So I don't like this matchup at all. The Steelers run defense is starting to look vulnerable, and the Eagles rushing attack with Saquon Barkley looks unstoppable. That's what we call a mismatch. So the Eagles should definitely be able to run the ball in this game. Now you might be thinking, all right, let's go hammer Philly -5 right now. Well, hold on, because now we have to talk about Jalen Hurts, and this is where things start to go south for the Philadelphia offense. When we're talking about the Eagles run game, shit is sweet, but we're talking about Jalen Hurts and the passing attack against this Steelers defense. It's not a good matchup. First of all, the Eagles passing attack hasn't looked all that great. In their last 4 games, they're averaging just 156.5 passing yards per game. This is a run-first offense all the way. Haven't really been throwing the ball much. 7 yards per attempt. Now, the success rate still looks good. Passer rating still looks fine. Not nearly as good as week 6 through 10. Passing attack was looking pretty efficient. Then, not that it's been inefficient, it's just not a huge part of the offense. And this Steelers defense, first of all, they run more single high safety looks than any other defense in the NFL. Now, Jalen Hurts has actually been better against single high safeties. 7th in completion percentage, 7th in yards per attempt, 17th and 14th against 2 high safeties. So you might think, hey, this might be a good matchup for Jalen Hurts. But check this out. These are Jalen Hurts' numbers against the Panthers last week. Just 108 passing yards in the game, 21 pass attempts. He was sacked 4 times. He was sacked 4 times by the Panthers. Now check this out. Look how weirdly similar the Panthers defense is to the Steelers defense. First in single high safety frequency for the Steelers, 2nd for Carolina. Cover 3, 4th and 5th. So the Steelers defense, a lot of single high safeties, a lot of cover 3. That's exactly what Carolina does. The difference, the Steelers can pressure the passer, the Panthers can't. In fact, we're talking about one of the best pass rushes in the NFL compared to arguably the worst pass rush in the NFL. Now, credit to the Panthers. They've been a little bit better recently, but they're not the Steelers. This is one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. Look, if we line these 2 defenses up next to each other. I mean, one side is completely green. The other side is completely red. Jalen Hurts was struggling against the Carolina defense, which is basically just a shitty version of the Steelers defense. Look what happens when we compare the defensive fronts here. We're talking about one of the best in the league compared to one of the worst in the league. So that concerns me. That concerns me a lot that the Steelers defense is so similar to Carolina's defense, and Carolina's defense was able to give Jalen Hurts all kinds of problems on the road in Philadelphia, where this game is. And it gets even worse than that, because look at Jalen Hurts' numbers under pressure. First of all, the Eagles' offensive line hasn't been all that great in pass protection this year. 28th in pressure rate, although that may be because Jalen Hurts holds on to the ball a lot. But either way, that's a problem, because the Steelers' pass rush is one of the best in the NFL. And look at Jalen Hurts' numbers under pressure. 32nd in pressure to sack rate, 33rd in yards per pass attempt, 17th in passer rating actually isn't terrible, 30th in turnover-worthy play rate. Jalen Hurts is having all kinds of problems handling pressure this year, and what does he do a lot of? Hangs onto the football too long. That's an ugly matchup. I mentioned that Pittsburgh's defense runs a lot of cover 3, just like Carolina's. Over 41% of their defensive snaps are in cover 3, 4th most in the NFL. Jalen Hurts' numbers against cover 3, not as good as his overall numbers. 17th in yards per attempt, 14th in passer rating, 27th in big-time throw rate. So not a ton of big downfield plays against cover 3. So as much as I hate this matchup for Russell Wilson, I hate this matchup for Jalen Hurts as well. Now, if you are betting the Eagles, you can point at this. The Steelers defense, we know it's a great unit. We know this defense makes plays. But here's the thing. Their last 3 road games, it hasn't looked all that good. In their last 3 road games, they're allowing 29.7 points per game, 5.9 yards per play, success rate above 56%. That was on the road in Cleveland in the snow, Washington, and Cincinnati. So I'd be a little worried about that if I'm considering betting Pittsburgh here. I mean, going on the road to Philly, you can't be allowing 30 points per game. That's a problem. That being said, We're talking about road dog Tomlin here. I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times. Mike Tomlin as an underdog, Mike Tomlin as a road underdog. In the last 12 instances, he's 9-3 against the spread, 9-3 outright. So 9-3 overall. He wins the game outright. 9 of the last 12. Betting Mike Tomlin as a road underdog has been extremely profitable. So obviously, if you're betting the Steelers for that reason, I completely get it. As for me, though, I hate the matchup for Russell Wilson too much, and I do not trust the Steelers to run the ball. I don't trust that offensive line at all, and I think they're going to be in prison here. So I think I'm leaning towards the Philadelphia side. I also like the under. Philadelphia -5, under 42.5. That's the way I think I'm going to go. I think we're going to see a low-scoring game. I actually think I like the under slightly more. I think if the Steelers win this or cover this, it's via the defense. It's via Jalen Hurts really struggling, because I could see that pass rush giving him all kinds of problems. Saquon Barkley should be able to run the ball in this game, and that's the angle I feel most comfortable about. I don't trust the Steelers offense. I don't trust Jalen Hurts. I do trust the Eagles to run the football. So that's the angle I'm most comfortable with. Eagles -5, under 42.5. Live shows 4 p.m. Eastern time during the week. Live shows on the weekend will be in the morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Let's have ourselves a good one. Please remember to bet responsibly. I'm coming off a great week 14. Let's make it back to back. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me.